anticipation leading up to that Louisville-Clemson game. It felt like a playoff game in October. This feels like a playoff game in November. It just has that excitement around it. But before we get to that game, there's a whole lot to talk about. The biggest news of the week in the NFL was the indefinite suspension of Cleveland Browns defensive end Myles Garrett. A lot to talk about in this game, of course, and the fallout that came after. Let's go up to Adam and more. What more can you tell us, guys?
Sam, 3 players suspended on Friday, and 3 players have appealed those suspensions, and will have those appeals heard and ruled on by Wednesday morning at the latest. The joint appeals officers, Derek Brooks and James Thrash, will hear the appeals of Myles Garrett, Marquise Pouncey, and Larry Ogunjobi. This week, they will divvy up the assignments on Monday, then hear those appeals for what we saw on Thursday night, something that we've never before seen.
And the uniqueness of these appeals is sometimes lost upon the people, is that the people who are making a lot of these decisions are former NFL players. John Runyon in the NFL office, former offensive tackle. The appeals officers, both Derek Brooks and James Thrash, former players who are paid by both the union and the league. In the Myles Garrett case, they're going to anchor that to the indefinite suspension, because they believe that the CBA does not allow for an indefinite suspension for an on-field incident. And oh, by the way, among players who will be fined, Mason Rudolph, the quarterback of the Steelers. It's an automatic fine for fighting of about $35,000.
And there are people who believe that Mason Rudolph helped instigate the incident on Thursday night. And not only will Mason Rudolph be fined, but so will a host of other players. There are going to be mass fines for players leaving the bench area. About 10 players, maybe more. The NFL is still sifting through the film. You see all the players pouring onto the field after the fight breaks out. There are fines in the NFL's fine schedule for that, and I would say at least 10 players. You could see them all there going onto the field. The NFL has been looking over that film, gathering together the numbers, jersey numbers of the players who poured onto the field. And not only will Myles Garrett and Larry Ogunjobi and Mason Rudolph get fines for that night, but so will all the players who left the bench area, Sam.
All right, thanks, guys. Obviously, a lot of fines, a lot of controversy about what happened. Rex, when you saw it live, what was your reaction?
Well, I was totally embarrassed by it. And to me, I'm just saying this. If I was a coach, I would have run down there, immediately grabbed Myles Garrett and just said, hey, look, man, if you ever want to play for me, I mean, this is unacceptable. I mean, I would have used a hell of a lot more, different words than that.
I know that.
And would have grabbed him and say, look, number one, I mean, I'm an NFL lifer. My whole family's NFL from jump, 50 years of it. And I've never seen anything like it on this field. But to me, I would have made sure he knew that hell no. And look, I love physical football. Mm-hmm. There's no question about it. But this thing right here, there's nothing physical about it. This is an assault. This is ridiculous. And to me, I used to tell my players all the time, said, I don't believe in fighting. I said, if I want a fighter, I'll go to a gym and grab some boxer or whatever. So you want to impress me? You do it with your pads and you be physical. Yeah. This is one of the finest players in the league. I voted him the Defensive Player of the Year at the start of the year. But this right here, this would have been ridiculous. And look, he might have hit me in the head with a helmet. I have no idea. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is not acceptable. I don't care who he is, how good he is.
Yes.
And for him to be appealing this, what? Are you out of your mind? Just go do what the league tells you to do.
Speaking of the appeal, you heard Mort say that former players are going to hear that appeal. And we all, as former players, know almost, I don't unwritten rule, whatever you want to call it, the helmet comes off in an altercation. It's like, whoa. You sort of freeze about, okay, you got the helmet, man, chill, cooler heads need to prevail now, but taking it to next level, to swinging that is something that is new to me, something, have you seen it before? I mean, sure, it's been done in the past before, but still, that little swing right there, to have someone connect on that, if it was a different part of the helmet, it could have been much more serious.
Yeah, and you talk about once that helmet comes off, both guys, Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett, are so lucky. Like, I don't care what fine comes down, what suspension comes down. You are so lucky that nobody died. I mean, we saw Mason Rudolph take a clean hit from Earl Thomas this year, and he was lights out, cold, knocked out. They had to, screwdriver the face mask off of his helmet, and that was a clean hit. So for Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett, no matter how bad you feel about what happens, you should be thankful that that Mason Rudolph wasn't killed on that field. And for every player on that field, that's something that you would never forget. That would change everything. And so, I understand it.
We've all been there. I've been there before. But the one thing as a coach, as a player, we have to be able to control our emotions. And just being able to look at that, Myles Garrett emotions did get the best of him, but Rex, Coach, like you said, that's unacceptable. Teddy, once the helmet comes off, everything's supposed to halt, supposed to stop, and then we move on from there. But, let me add this by saying, he was just talking about the players going to be fined for running on the field. I didn't see really one player running out there full speed. I've seen players from both sides of the bench running out there because they seen how bad it was getting out there. So I know there's going to be a lot of fines out there, and hopefully the National Football League does take into consideration about the guys running out there trying to resolve the matter. I didn't see nobody running off the bench full speed running a 4.240 over there to it. So I hope they take that into consideration.
Let's not forget about what happened earlier in this game. The helmet-to-helmet hits by the Cleveland Brown players. I don't know. I don't want to say the word bounty or anything like that, but this was a violent game, not in today's modern NFL. And Myles Garrett, this behavior should have been squashed after he swung at Delaney Walker earlier in the year. I mean, I want to know, does Freddie Kitchens have control of the team? He talked about having uncomfortable conversations with his players when he has to. Now, if you have them, okay, you're supposed to have them. Hopefully he is. But if he is, they're not impactful, because this behavior is still happening with his players. Not only the Tennessee Titans when he swung at Delaney Walker, when Myles Garrett had multiple roughing the passer penalties versus the New York Jets. This is a pattern of behavior. And then the other players also, helmet-to-helmet hits. Kitchens, get control of your team.
But in fairness, I think what you heard from Baker Mayfield, from Odell Beckham Jr., and from Jarvis Landry immediately after the game was, the bond of like being a player in the NFL. You mentioned being an NFL lifer is stronger than the jersey that you're wearing, like the health and safety. And so a credit, from my perspective, a credit to OBJ, Jarvis Landry, and Baker Mayfield immediately after the game saying, hey, this is just unacceptable.
And those are two tough guys right there. And they know the way the game's meant to be played. Respect the game. And that's it. Respect the game.
Look, after the fact, Myles Garrett certainly seemed contrite, apologetic. This is something that's going to stay with him. No matter what happens in his career going forward, he is always going to be remembered for this. This doesn't make him an evil guy, but it is yet another reminder to me that losing control of your emotions, even in the heat of the moment, not only can mess up your own life, it could end the life of another person. And it's, at least from my perspective, good to see the NFL showing that they take this very seriously, as of course all the players do also. All right, can we talk about something fun? Is that all right?
Yeah,
let's get back to ball. Is that all right? Let's get to our opening kicks. Randy, what are you most excited to see in the NFL today?
Man, this is the talk all around the country, even the barbershop. Man, who is the man? Who is the man? I want to be the man. Who is the future of the National Football League? I'm talking about Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. It's going down in Baltimore. Yes, the success on both of these young men has been from the lower extremities. Yes, I'm talking about their legs. But we'll talk a little bit later about the tight ends and how they move into this discussion. It's a big game going down in Baltimore. Can't wait to see this one.
Yeah, being the Moss, man. And let's talk about being the man in Philadelphia, Randy, because Carson Wentz, he wants to keep on moving on past this Super Bowl where he didn't participate in and prove that this is his team. He gets to play the New England Patriots. They're going to take away Zach Ertz. That's a guarantee. Can he find all those other weapons in Goddard, in Sanders, those type of guys? Can he use his legs to be successful? I'll be watching. So excited to watch Carson Wentz play today.
One game that I'm excited about is, will the Dallas Cowboys bounce back? Oh, you're darn right they will today. And here's why. You got players like Cooper, you got Zeke, you got that great offensive line, but it's Dak Prescott. He's going to be the difference today. He's going to light up Detroit. Detroit can't stop anybody. He's an outstanding player. It's time to show off, young man. I think Dallas does it in a big way today.
Okay, you got Dak over Driscoll, but guess what? Minshew Mania was fun. It was all exciting. I'm all in on it. Bright future. But the Super Bowl 52 MVP, Nick Foles, is back. going up against his old buddy Frank Reich in the days when he was coaching him. Frank Reich's got Jacoby Brissett. Jacksonville's fired up to have Nick Foles. They think the intangibles are off the charts, and I expect to see more Leonard Fournette than we've seen so far this season.
Yeah, huge game for Nick today. Another big game in Tampa as Drew Brees is coming off the worst